Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Isra. I'm one of the coordinators of Violence Against Women Task Force at MWO. I'd like to introduce Amani Shalabi. Amani is the coordinator of Gender Equity Committee at MWO. Amani has a postgraduate diploma in Islamic Studies. She is given the ijaza to teach Islamic Studies. She's a native Arabic speaker, and she has translated over 20 books from English to Arabic. What we're going to be talking here today is about an ayah that's mostly used to justify violence against women. I'll be reading the ayah here from Quran.com, Sahih International, and then Amani will share with us her perspective and translation of the ayah. So it says here, men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other, and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But those wives for whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. But if they obey you once more, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted and grand. So Amani, would you mind to share with us your perspective and translation of that ayah?
Sure. So when we look at the ayat, there are some key Arabic words that we need to understand correctly. And the way I do it is to look at the oldest Arabic dictionary, which is called the Lisan al-Arab, the Arabic tongue, and to see all the possible meanings. The translations out there, most of it, take from second hand. They don't take from the dictionary looking at all possible meaning of the word, but they look at the second hand translation is based on traditional tafsir, which was done by scholars, men who did their own reflection on it and understanding of it. So the Quran tells us to study, reflect, think, and it says Iqra, read. So we have to look for ourselves also all the possible meaning and what makes more sense. So for example, the ayah here says men are قوامون على النساء, and the word قوامون comes from the root verb قام, to stand for something. So to take care of something, and there is a hadith that says everyone is a caretaker. The mother is a caretaker of the children, the governor is a caretaker of the people he governs, which means to look after their affairs. So in that way we can understand this word. Then Allah says the men are then the caretaker or maintainer or steward of women. And then it says, by what Allah favored some of them over others. So it doesn't say he favored men over women, it just says some over others. But if we read the rest of the ayah, we can understand that Allah is talking about favoring some men over other men by having more provision, because it says Allah, by what Allah favored some of them over the others, and by what they spend on their families, on their wives. So Allah gave some more provision to some men over others, and each is required to spend according to their own means, just as Allah says in other ayat. And then the ayah says الصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب, which means the pious women are qanitat. Qanitat is another word. It comes from qanata, to be calm, to be composed, not to be agitated or to be afraid or worry about provision. So in this context, it means they are calm by the provision that will be provided for them, because they have to take care of children, nurse children, and so forth. And they have to be حافظات للغيب, like guarding the unseen. So what is the unseen? Like scholars say different things, but if we read again, the context is about who will spend on the family and maintain the financial affair of the family and look after the women and the children in that respect. it is talking about the women guarding the privacy of the financial status of the family. You don't have to go and tell everyone about your financial affairs unless you're seeking consultation for a problem, or you know, you're not provided for your necessities, then you can go talk to an imam, parent, and so forth. So in this context, they are guarding the financial affair of the family, the privacy of the family, by what Allah also preserved. He made it already private. Nobody knows about anyone's financial affairs. And so the women should also maintain that privacy. واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن, and then Allah says those whom you fear their abuse. The word nushuz, which is translated in different ways as rebellious or disobedient or disloyal, but the word comes from the root verb nashaza, to protrude on earth, like something protrude from the earth. And that means rising above a level, you know. So it means that the women behavior is above the decent, normal, commonly acceptable behavior, which she would mean to translate it as abuse, because abuse is above the normal behavior, where we can disagree respectfully about something. We can have different opinion, but we still can respect one another. So similarly, the word nushuz here means it means abuse, that which is beyond the normal level. So if the women are abusive of their husbands, what the husband should do? The ayah says, first you have to advise her gently, verbally. Then it says, then leave them or abandon them in beds. But the word madaja in Arabic language, if you look it in Lisan al-Arab, it means a place of rest, like a bed, or a time of rest. So it means when you are at home with her, show protest, like you're not talking to her anymore, to show that you're protest. First you try to advise her verbally, please don't abuse me verbally or financially or other ways. Please be respectful for me. And if the wife does not conform to that, then you kind of protest. We see that at the Prophet ﷺ example, when the women lied to him, his wife lied to him, and so he actually protested by being away from them for a whole month. So that was the Prophet example, like to show that he is upset. And there is another hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, don't abandon your wife or ignore your wife or neglect your wife outside the house. Like if you want to show that you're protesting the way she's abusing you or treating you, then do that at home. But outside, you should still maintain communication with her and maintain a public view that honor that relationship. And then the third step, which usually is the one that you're referring to,
yes.
that translated unfortunately as a strike your wife lightly or gently, it says وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ. So if you look at this verb in Arabic language, jaraba, it can be also have a metaphorical meaning, such as in the Quran itself, it is used to mean travel on the earth, for example, or protest something and travel to seek provision. وَاضْرِبُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. So the word daraba can have a metaphorical meaning, which should be the correct meaning here. In Lisan al-Arab it says daraba al-rajul al-majd, means that the man pursued greatness. So it means to pursue something, such as when the Quran says وَاضْرِبُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, it means pursue provision by traveling and working on the earth. So it means pursue, further pursue something. or seek something. So if the advice, the gentle advice, verbal advice didn't work, the silent protest didn't work, then the third step is to pursue further solutions, such as going to family counseling, to a therapist, to an imam, to a wise person in the family, from her side and from your side, as the Quran actually confirms, then to bring the solution. So obviously the word here should not be understood as strike, because the Prophet behavior himself, as an example, a role model for all Muslims, he never beat a wife or a child or anyone, or a slave, a servant. He never beat an animal even. So it is not comprehensible that the Quran will say to beat their wife. There is one particular hadith that misunderstood to mean that the Prophet gave license at some point for the husband to beat wife, but if you read it in its context, you can see where the misconception came from. So it says that the Prophet ﷺ said in a khutbah, in a hadith, don't beat the devotees of Allah, in reference to the female devotees of Allah, in reference to women. So he said that clearly, don't beat them. Then the rest of the hadith, the narrator is saying, Omar came and said, but the women are rebellious against their husband, and he gave permission for the husband to lightly strike their wives. The word he here is in reference to Omar, but many people, or many scholars even, would think it means that the Prophet gives a license. But the rest of the hadith so just can show that the Prophet never gives us license, because when these women who were beaten by their husbands came to Aisha and to other Prophet's wives and complained that their husband beat them, then the Prophet ﷺ went out and said, whoever have done that is not the best Muslim, is not the best one among you. So in the beginning of hadith, it says, the Prophet said, don't beat your wives, don't beat women. And in the end of the hadith, he said, whoever does that is not the best among you believers. So it seems to me that the Prophet can never go against the Quran. So it means that the ayah in the Quran does not mean to beat your wife, but to pursue further solutions, such as suggested in another ayah in the Quran, to bring a wise person from her family and a wise person from your family. Now we have professional also, like therapists and marriage counseling, that we can go to solve our problems, because beating the wife will not solve the problem.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Amani, for explaining that. It's definitely eye-opening for a lot of people. We're so happy to have you here.
Alhamdulillah.
And I want to say that Amani actually has a real talk on a Wednesday each month here at MW Hub. Make sure to follow us so you can see the upcoming events. Our next one is going to be on the 30th. We're going to have a movie viewing and a real talk discussion on honor killing. Make sure to be there and RSVP because the space is limited. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.